Hello, this is a guy who likes fanfiction and is too lazy to read, so here is Students of the Snake in audio form. Check the description for the links to the author. CH36 confirmation. Back in Oto, another round of bad news was on the minds of some people. Kushina was currently in a break room at Oto's hospital, after having a physical to confirm the extent of her health. Tsunade and Shizun were sitting at a table with her, taking a break from their jobs to keep her company. Tsunade had a small bottle of sake in hand while Shizun had some green tea and a plain bagel with some jelly on it. Kushina had no appetite or thirst at the moment. "Have you let it sink in yet?" Shizun asked before taking a bite of her bagel. Kushina sighed. "Yeah, and it makes me sick to my stomach." The other day Tsunade had informed Kushina of everything concerning Konoha and Naruto. While he had told her some important things back in Wave, he had not told her everything. Tsunade filled in the gaps. Things like how Sarutobi was lax in ensuring Naruto's overall safety, how Orochimaru had to fake his and several other kids' deaths to get them away safely, what happened involving the Hyugas and even the Uchiha massacre, and what Sarutobi did in regards to Garuto. "I know what you mean," Tsunade said. "I'm sorry I wasn't there to help sooner. You weren't scheduled to go into labor for another week or so, and Minato didn't send me a message or anything. When I did send a slug to talk to Minato after the Kyuubi attack, when it came back it told me Sensei was the Hokage and all three of you were dead. You've got to understand that I had no reason to mistrust Sensei back then." "I do understand, and I don't blame you, Tsunade." But what?" Tsunade asked. "This doesn't make sense. How could this all happen? Everyone knew Minato-kun and I were about to have a baby. Didn't anyone ask where Naruto came from? Didn't anyone notice the resemblance? Just who started the shit in my son's life and why did they do that?" Kushina asked on the verge of tears. Tears of sorrow or anger, no one knew. "I don't know. I can only guess." The slug Sunin answered with regret. Kabuto knocked on the doorway to get the women's attention. "Sorry to interrupt you, but Orochimaru-sama requests your presence in the council room right away, Tsunade-sama." "Kushina-san, you can come too, as your input would be appreciated." Tsunade rose from her seat. "I'll be there shortly." "Any idea what it's about?" Kabuto shook his head. "Nope, sorry. I do know I've got to attend to since Jiraiya-sama won't be available." "What about your genin team?" Shizun asked. "I've got them doing a border patrol routine with Kodomaru-san. That should occupy them for the time being," Kabuto said before turning around and gesturing for them to follow. In 15 minutes Tsunade, Kabuto, and Kushina were inside the council room in the Otokage Tower. Shizun stayed at the hospital to keep up her duty, and because technically she hadn't been invited to come along. Tsunade saw everyone on the shinobi side was there, with Orochimaru seated in the most dominant position and both seats next to him and the civilian side empty. Kabuto took Jiraiya's seat and she took her own. She also happened to notice the presence of another person, who wasn't an official member of the council but belonged in this room no less. "Subsonic? What brings you here?" she asked the masked spy. "There was something I just had to see," Subsonic said before removing the mask and smiling at Kushina. "Hello, Kushina-san. Long time no see." Kushina gasped, and said Subsonic's real name in awe and disbelief, as if uncertain they were really there before her. "Yeah, it's really me. Trust me, I'm more surprised to see you than you are to see me." "What are you doing here?" Kushina asked. "Let's just say I was one of the few people in Konoha not blinded to your son. I've been helping him and Orochimaru-sama for years by keeping an eye on Konoha for years since they left. By the way, I have this for you." Subsonic then pulled out a storage scroll and unsealed the contents. Out popped a sheathed sword. "Luckily I managed to get a hold of this before whoever took you away got to it. I've also been holding onto your husband's jutsu scrolls too for when Naruto's ready to learn them." Kushina took her sword and held it close to her. It had been one of the few mementos from her homeland. "Thank you. No sweat. Anything for an old friend." Orochimaru coughed, letting them know to save the rest of their reunion for later. They bowed and let him speak. "Everyone, for years we have discussed the possibility of having to engage Konoha or Kiri in combat. We have several reasons to. Konoha has done some rather horrible things to the least deserving of all people, and Kiri tried to kill off a good portion of this village's population. Both of their actions led to our village's creation, and deep down we've always harbored the desire to strike back at them. I've called you together to inform you we may have our chance to get our pound of flesh soon if we choose to take it. What do you mean? One of the council members, the Fuma representative, asked. This one was Sasame's uncle Ichigo Fuma, and he was dressed in a black shirt with blue pants and sported his orange hair much like Naruto did. He usually didn't look too friendly, but he was a good person to be around generally. When it comes to a direct attack, we do have the element of surprise. However, both villages have the home field and number advantage. We could put up a good first wave attack and do some damage, but once that ended we'd have to retreat or risk total annihilation. So the best option for maximizing damage in such an event would be to have agents already within the village limits when the big forces strike. The problem, however, is getting such agents in place. Orochimaru explained. But now that problem can be solved. He continued with a smile. The Churyunin exams will be coming to Konoha shortly, and what better chance would we have to get some of our forces within Konoha's walls without fuss? Ichigo Fuma raised his hand. If I may, Otokage-sama. Orochimaru nodded his approval. There are a few key figures you failed to mention. If I remember correctly, a village needs an invite for their teams to even participate in the exams, and Konoha doesn't even know we exist. And also, if we by chance did get an invite, the only agents we could send in are a few genin and their jounin instructors. Is that really enough to make it worth it? And if it is, when would they strike? I'm glad to see you've thought this out, Ichigo-san. Orochimaru replied. Yes, some genin and fewer jounin are the best we can send in, at first. Assuming they make it to the final round, where the village leaders are permitted admission to see them compete, I can get there without suspicion, and so can Jiraiya and Tsunade. I can also bring the Sound 5 with me as guards, so they'd be directly inside too. Does that sound acceptable? It sounds good to me, Otokage-sama. But what about the invite? The Kaguya representative asked. This one wasn't directly related to Kimimaro but was the oldest woman in the clan. Her name was Kaede Kaguya, a short woman with wrinkly pale skin and long white hair in a low ponytail, but enough hop in her step to make her look 10 years younger when active. I received a message from the Kazekage saying his village was just invited to participate in the Churyunin exams. He said he's anxious to do some damage to Konoha for what they tried to do to him and his son years ago now that his children are old enough to do so, and he wanted to know if we'd like to do the same at the same time. So you're saying that Kazekage-sama has already decided to assault Konoha? Kaede Kaguya asked. I'm not entirely certain. That is a possibility, but I get the impression that if we were to decline this opportunity, Kazekage-sama would settle for spilling some leaf blood during the tests. If we do assist him, then he'll aim for more. Orochimaru answered. But still, what about our invite? The Mamakai representative, Haku's mother Naomi Mamakai, asked. She was the representative instead of Zabuza because she was the actual ice wielder of the duo and he was more suited for field work anyway. Orochimaru grinned at her. Simple, Kazekage-sama said if we want, he'll tell the Hokage that he'll accept the invite on the condition our village gets to participate too. I know that means we'll be revealing ourselves, but the time for hiding may be past anyway. At least our location will remain a secret. So what you're saying is that we have the opportunity to do some damage to Konoha along with our ally, but we should vote on if this is something we really should do. Tsunade asked. Yes, exactly. The Snake Sunin told his teammate. I'll open the floor to everyone. Give your views on if we should or shouldn't do this. What exactly do we have to gain from such an act? The Inigamo representative, Hideki Inigamo asked. He was Kodomaro's father and looked like gray-haired version of his son with a beard much like Asuma possessed. He was missing the top of his right arms, an old wound from an earlier fight in his reckless youth. For one, we get to see what our genin can do during the exams and give them an honest promotion to the rank for once. Orochimaru answered. And we can gain a sense of satisfaction in giving Konoha a black eye at least. Plus, think of this as practice for if we ever need to do something similar to Kiri or someone attacks us. Heck, the only reason we don't focus on attacking that village is we and our allies can't get any armies to it without them becoming aware. If I may, Otokage-sama. Kaed spoke up. We have enjoyed nearly a decade without unnecessary conflict. I for one do not wish to see that come to an end and risk invasion for the sake of spiting a village. Aside from your personal reasons, what other motivation do you have for wanting this? The main reason I bring this up is because we won't get another chance like this for years. If endangering the lives of several children in our care and believing those kids deserved it isn't reason enough to retaliate, what is? Orochimaru answered. Other wars and invasions in the past have been started for less. Kabuto pointed out. Would IWA assist? Ichigo asked. We'll have to contact them after Suna to find out. The Snake Sunin replied. Personally, I agree with Otokage-sama. Subsonic spoke up. We have a good chance here to administer belated justice to Konoha. I think the Yondaime Hokage would agree something needs to be done to the people who spit on his sacrifice. Hurting their star genin was a good start, but it's hardly enough. If my husband knew what my son and Tsunade-sama told me, he'd do something about it. Kushina sadly added. By the way, Kushina-san, I have a theory on that you may want to hear. Subsonic told the redhead. What is it? She curiously asked. I've often asked myself why no one ever saw the resemblance between your husband and your son, especially someone like Kakashi who should have noticed it immediately. My guess is that someone used a genjutsu on the majority of the village to prevent them from being able to. It's the only logical option. Since Otokage-sama and I were elsewhere for a time when Naruto was born, we escaped the casting. The question is who and why. Kushina was stunned silent. That explains why Kakashi acted the way he did back in Wave. Tsunade spoke up. If you're so certain about that, Subsonic, why have you not tried to break such a genjutsu? Why would I? I couldn't prove it and still can't. It's only speculation. Since I don't know who cast the genjutsu, although I do have ideas, even if I did break it that would only bring attention to myself, that would reveal things I can't reveal yet. Not to mention there's no point without Naruto there to remind them of everything they've done and show them all the similarities. Without him there to help their minds put two and two together, they wouldn't change at all. I see. But that theory sounds very fitting. Is it possible the Sandaime Hokage was the one who cast it? He was after all the one who let Naruto's Jinhiriki status known but not his heritage, and he was the one who created the IWA claim to justify it all. Tsunade asked. He is one of my suspects. But if he was the guilty one, then why didn't he affect Orochimaru-sama too? Subsonic asked. No one answered. I think it was someone who never actually had much contact with him, but who could get in touch with almost everyone in power in Konoha without much fuss and have reason to make Naruto's life hell. That's why I suspect Sensei. Tsunade added. Maybe he didn't affect Orochimaru because someone had to be around to ensure Naruto grew up. And I think he could have done that to the village so that when Naruto got older he'd see that almost everyone hated him, but the old man was one of the few that showed him compassion, so he'd feel compelled to do whatever it took to please the old man and stay on his good side. That's what I've always thought was his idea. Remember, this man would let the Hyugas kill Hitomi because she found something he didn't want found. He then emitted from everyone in the room at the thought of one person doing this to a newborn and an expecting mother. That old man and that village have a lot to answer for. All in favor of sending a few teams for the exams? Orochimaru asked. Hiruzen Sarutobi sat in his office reading the scroll he just got from Takamaru, Suna's messenger Hawk to Konoha. Hokage-sama, in regards to your invite to send some genin to the upcoming Chunin exams, I have this to say. Only one of my teams has been selected for taking it, which hardly seems enough to me. To make up for the lack of numbers, I request an extended invitation to another group I know. This is a small village not unlike Hoshi or Kusa, it is called Oto. They are a recently started village and closer to my country, so I wouldn't be surprised if you haven't heard of them yet. I would like to see how their genin fare in the exams as well as my own. I will inform the leader if you agree to my conditions. If not, then I will wait for the next one. Yondaime Kazekage. Sarutobi stroked his beard. A new village? Could they be the ones that incapacitated the Uchiha? I think I would like to see what their genin can do within my reach. Ch 37 editions. Hanabi was walking down the halls of the Otokage Tower looking for Naruto. She had something on her mind. What would he say? I thought it over while he was away and I don't see any holes in it. Even Okasan agreed it was a smart idea. But all I need is his permission. Nichan's too, but she's easier to convince. The youngest Byakugan wielder in Oto reached his room and knocked on the door. He didn't answer, so she knocked again. Naruto-kun. There was no answer again, prompting her to press her ear against the door. She heard nothing. Where is he? Stepping back from the door, she crossed her arms and closed her eyes in thought. Maybe he's training with Nichan again. I thought he would be on break by now. Guess I was wrong. She opened her eyes. Byakugan. Veins beside her eyes bulged and a tiny visible pupil appeared, allowing her to see all around her. She noticed two key things. The first was that her sister and her team were indeed training in one of the forested training grounds Oto had available. This particular one wasn't that far from the tower. The second was that Teiwa of the Sound 5 was inside the building and heading in her direction, carrying an envelope in her right hand. I wonder what she's doing. Hanabi said as she deactivated her Dojutsu and walked towards where she saw the redhead. It only took going around 2 corners to reach her. Hi Teiwa-san, are you off duty? Not really. I just got back from a long pain in the ass delivery job to Suna through the fucking hot desert. I've got something to tell Otokage-sama and give this to Naruto-kun too. She answered as she held up the envelope. Then I'm going to take a nice bath and relax. I'm not a big fan of hot dry places. It was a rather odd thing to anyone else at first glance, but these two girls actually got along pretty well. They first met about 2 years ago when Naruto had to watch the young girl as a favor to Hitomi and brought her to Ichiraku's and then to bring Teiwa her own lunch. The Sound 5's lone female member made sure to keep her tongue somewhat in check around the girl, but fortunately Hanabi never paid it much mind when she slipped. It wasn't like she didn't hear that language from others too. And like Naruto, Hanabi often thought Teiwa had a good sense of humor. What's in it? I don't know, but I do know it came from the Kazekage's daughter. Teiwa said. Hanabi smiled coyly. Think she's interested in our favorite blonde? Teiwa grinned back. I wouldn't doubt it. They have been pen pals for a while. Hanabi looked right at the envelope and was overcome with curiosity. She activated her Byakugan and read what was inside it. Dear Naruto-kun. I'm glad you finally became a genin. Maybe someday we'll be able to go on a joint mission together. I know Gaara would like that, and I think Kankuro too even though he denies it. I know I'd love to see you use your talents in a real fight and maybe go flying with you one day since we both can now. So you really need to get 9 girls pregnant for your village? Weird, and all this time I thought your sister was joking when she told me that years ago. Yeah, she told me when I first visited your village and we were kids, and naive girl that I was, I toyed with the idea of being one of them. Don't think wrong of me, we were both kids and you were cute and fun to be with, but now that we're older we can see how difficult it would be for us to have a relationship like that. I'm not saying you're not worth it, you are one of my good friends and always will be. But unless I move to Oto or you move to Suna, how would it work? You can't come here and I can't break away from my own duties unless Tou-san lets me. But enough of nice fantasies. If you want my advice on what to do about the girls, my first recommendation is to know about their skills and talents. Any child you sire will learn from the mother too, so the mother's abilities should be compatible with the Kekkei Genkai you passed down to them. Let's say hypothetically you and I did have a child together. With what I can teach our child too, I'd be a good candidate for mothering any child who inherited your gravity control, but probably not any others. Again, this is just hypothetical. I'm glad to hear you want to treat each of the girls you will accept as special loved ones and not just baby factories or sex dolls. Men like you are hard to find. It's a shame there's so much distance between us. But I'm happy for you. Write me again if you need to talk later. Tamari Subaku. Wow. Hanabi muttered when she rested her Kekkei Genkai. Wow, what? Teiwa asked. She wants him bad. You have to read between the lines to see it, but the desire is clear as crystal. but she's not expecting to be accepted, so she's covering it up. Hanabi explained. So that sassy blonde wants to be with my blonde. Teiwaya thought. Well, Naruto-kun does like her, and getting her here should be manageable for our village leaders to agree on. I don't see why not. I guess we found our eighth girl. Hanabi arched an eyebrow. Judging from the look on your face, I'm guessing you're in favor of the idea. And you're not. Hanabi looked down. And no, if she makes Naruto-kun happy, that's what matters. But? Teiwaya asked, sensing there was more being unsaid here. But? Hanabi added with a small kick at nothing on the floor. How many more girls does Naruto-kun need? Teiwaya looked confused and surprised to hear that question. Not counting the Suna girl, too. One if she does get accepted later on. Why? Don't tell me you want to join Hana-chan. Hanabi gave the redhead eye contact again, and the older woman could see the little girl was on the verge of tears. I know what it sounds like, but can't you and the others at least hear me out before you dismiss me? Teiwaya got down on her knees to make the girl feel more comfortable now. Okay Hana-chan, tell me what's on your mind. The former Hyuga, now named Hibiki, sighed before answering the flutist's question. I'm a kid, I know, and that's why I wouldn't be a first choice for helping Naruto-kun like you or Nichan would. But, if I was closer to your age I would be, wouldn't I? Yeah. Teiwaya said, stretching out the word. After all, the reason Naruto-kun's allowed 9 girls in the first place is so he can have several kids that will go on to create some clans for Oto. And no offense, you're just too young to help out in that way. But I could be old enough with Naruto-kun's age control. Hanabi pointed out. Teiwaya opened her mouth to counter her claim, but no sound emitted once the words registered in her mind. Well, damn, gotta give you that one. But seriously now, do you really want to end your childhood so quickly and go through puberty right away? It's not a pleasant experience, no fucking way. Not to mention you'll still be 10 years old up here. She finished while poking Hanabi in the forehead. Teiwaya-san, if you were me, what would you do? The redhead didn't answer right away. Most of the reason was because she was afraid of just how to answer that. Another part was that she remembered a bit about herself back when she was 10 years old too. Teiwaya wouldn't call her childhood bad, just lonely. She had the 2 standard parents that loved her and raised her, but they were always busy during the day working as civilians. They once had been ninja native to the country before Oto was established, but after a long battle with an old rival, which they won but at the cost of their home, her parents just lost all their motivation for being ninja anymore. The main reason they moved to Oto when it was created was for a place to retire but not feel disconnected from the general population. What better place than where many others were ninja too? The thing was that even though they decided to retire, their daughter wanted to start her own ninja career. Her parents didn't stop her, but they did warn her it would be tough and exhausting. So far the biggest problem at the time had been that few girls in Oto actually wanted to be kunoichi. Teiwaya wasn't the only one, but she did feel far outnumbered by the boys. That was part of the reason she developed her trademark attitude, to feel less excluded with her comrades and be taken more seriously despite being one girl amongst many boys. Too bad some of them like that fat-ass Jirobo thought that wasn't such a good idea. In the end Teiwaya had gotten her wish and become one of the strongest kunoichi in all of Land of Rice. She was probably on par with Shizune by now, or at least Anko. But the road to that destination had been lonely with few friends and many evenings with her parents out of the home. Naruto was probably the first real friend she had ever really had, and she valued that bond more than anything. So back then, if she was given the offer to be an important part of his life when she was younger, at the cost of growing up quicker than normal, would she accept? For Naruto, she would. However, she and Hanabi were different people. The young girl was rarely lonely and never had to develop defense mechanisms to fit in better amongst her peers. So even though they both liked the same boy, the odds were that Hanabi's affection wasn't quite on the same level as Teiwaya's was. Yeah, Hana-chan. That's if you were me. But you're not me, you know? You're you, so shit ain't exactly the same for us. I know, but I like Naruto-kun just like the rest of you. Why can't I be given the chance to at least be considered? I just need to be a few years older. If it works out, then it's worth the sacrifice to me. If it doesn't, then he can just turn me back and I won't have to spend the rest of my life wondering what if. Hanabi replied, one tear escaping from each of her eyes. Taewya quickly felt bad for the girl. But before she could give in to her, the redhead had one more thing to bring up. Okay Hana-chan, you have a point. Me and the others are pretty much doing that same thing here. But you gotta understand, that would mean becoming a mother in the next few years. Could you handle that? Hanabi wiped her eyes. By the time it actually happens, then yes. And that's actually where I bring up my best point. Taewya arched an eyebrow. Like what? For the idea behind Naruto-kun's harem to work, all the girls involved need skills that their kids can benefit inheriting too. The girl that wrote that letter for him says the same thing I realized while he was away. With that in mind, I'm one of the best choices for being a member. Remember the age control? It only works in close-range situations. So the kids who inherit it need to be taught to be close-range fighters, like me. I told Okasan that and she said it works out perfectly and gives my clan the edge they'll need in the future, so I helped him and he helps me. The fact that I love him just makes us more compatible. Taewya thought it over and saw no holes in the argument except one. You love him, huh? In what way? I enjoy his company and personality and look forward to the next time we're together every time we part. I know he's not perfect, but he's perfect just the way he is. I see him in my dreams and want to be a part of his dreams, like you. So you tell me. Hanabi answered. Taewya smiled warmly and ruffled the girl's hair. I'd say that's somewhere between a childhood crush and the beginning of young love. But I'm not the romantic type, so what the fuck do I know for sure? So if you're so damn confident about it, why don't you go tell him what you just told me? I think I will. Wanna come along? Sure. Why the hell not? I still need to give him this anyway after I see Otokage-sama. The redhead replied while indicating the envelope. In less than half an hour Taewya had told Orochimaru about her mission in Suna and followed Hanabi to Naruto's training ground. He was sparring against Isaribi while Anko handled Hinata. The two visiting girls couldn't help but just gaze at him for a bit before making themselves known. Hey Naruto! Taewya shouted. The whiskered blonde turned to look at the redhead, which gave Isaribi an opening to knock him on his feet. Sorry about that, Naruto-kun. Let me make you feel better. The purple-haired swimmer told him cheerfully as she knelt down next to him and held his hand, indicating that had been her plan all along. Before you get too comfortable there, pal, you might want to read this. Taewya told him before holding out the envelope. Thanks Taewya-chan. Glad you're back from your mission. He said as he took it and opened it, pulling out the letter. He read it over but didn't say anything while he read. Isaribi curiously read over his shoulder, and Anko and Hinata ended up doing the same. While they were reading, Hinata and Isaribi exchanged comprehending looks regarding the content. Man, I feel kinda bad for Temari-chan. Naruto said when he finished. Why's that? Hinata asked. She said she thought about coming here to be with us a while ago, but can't see how now. I'm having a hard time seeing how to make that happen too. But at least she's already got a life back in Suna. He answered. That's not what she wants though. Isaribi said. Come on, she's willing to give up her home just to be here with you and help you in our group. I'm sure Otokage-sama could find a way to let her come. Yeah, maybe it can be called an alliance marriage between our two villages to make it legal for her to come here. Isaribi added. Naruto chuckled. Are you girls actually more eager for this harem thing than I am? Hinata wrapped her arms around him from behind. Naru-kun, if she could come here, would you accept her in our group? I do like Temari-chan. Always have. I just didn't think about it since she lived elsewhere. So sure, I guess. If she can get here. He answered. Great. Now all you need is one more girl. And I know another volunteer. Taewya stated. Who? Naruto and Hinata asked. Me. Hanabi said with a smile. You. Hinata asked. Sisters share everything, don't they? The younger Byakugan wielder asked. But still, you're too young to help me out like this, Hanabi-chan. Naruto told her. Teiwaya grabbed his shoulder. Naruto-kun, come with me for a moment while she talks to them. I've got something to show you. Keep your clothes on. Hinata told them as they walked away. No promises. Teiwaya teasingly shouted back. Orochimaru was in his office talking to Tsunade while Teiwaya and Naruto watched them from a tree, unable to hear anything the Sannin were saying. Why did you bring me here? Naruto asked. Take a look at those two there, Naruto-kun. How long ago were they born? She asked. About 50 years ago. And how old do they look? Their early 30s. Naruto answered, not seeing where this was going. And why is that? Teiwaya knowingly asked. My age control Kekii Genkai. You know that. Teiwaya smiled. So you can make people younger. Or older too if you want. Of course. So what's your point? Teiwaya pointed at the window and he looked. Naruto-kun, you can take an old woman like Tsunade-sama and make her into a beautiful young, eyes up Naruto-kun. He stiffened at her command. A young fertile fuckable woman again. So that means you could make Hanabi-chan into a sexy young woman too. And before you ask, she's actually the one who asked for it. Naruto looked back at the flutist. But why would she do that? I've got nothing against Hanabi-chan as a friend, but she's just a kid. And you can change that. All she wants is to see if it can work out for her. If it doesn't, then you can turn her back, right? He nodded. So why the hell not? I was skeptical too at first, but she convinced me it's worth a shot. Naruto sighed. Give me some time to think about it. Okay. Teiwaya nodded. Sure thing. Hey, if you do go for it, maybe we can have a three-way someday. Wouldn't that be fucking awesome? She laughed when his nosebleed made him fall out of the tree. Oh shit, he took that seriously? Damn, this is going to be fun. CH38 opportunities. Back with the girls, another discussion of a similar nature was going on. No Hanabi, I'm not sharing Naruto-kun with you. Hinata told her little sister firmly. You could tell how bothered she was by the tone of her voice and the fact that she didn't use the Imuto title. And why not exactly? Hanabi asked, giving her sister a hard look. Isaribi just looked on at the moment. I think I can see electricity jolting between their eyes. Anko was watching too. This should be entertaining. Someone in alto attire coming up to her from behind caught her interest more though. Because you're too young. End of story. Hinata stated. No, not end of story. Hear me out, okay? And why should I? Hanabi smiled in a dangerous way. If you don't, Naruto-kun will. You know he'll hear me out for sure. Hinata mentally grimaced. Fine. Explain whatever you want to. I know I'm too young now, so can't you just reserve a spot in the group for me when I'm able to have kids? Please. Hanabi asked. And why should I and Naruto-kun wait that long? By then we might find another for the final position. But I'm your sister. Don't I matter? Don't give me that, Hanabi. Hinata told her. You do matter to me very much. But I don't need to cater to your every whim to prove it. If you think I do, then you're too childish to get this wish granted. But Nichan, I can help Naruto-kun just as much as you can when it comes to starting his new clans. Hanabi countered. Hinata arched an eyebrow. How? Well, I figured that you would most likely pass down the Neo-Byakugan to your kids. Who better to teach them how to use it than someone who already has such a jujutsu like you? Since I'm being trained to be a close-range fighter, I could help pass down age control, which can only be used in close-range situations. Isaribi smirked. Actually, that's not such a bad idea. You stay out of this. Hinata warned without any real negative intent. Why? Hanabi asked. As one of your harem sisters, doesn't she have a say in who gets involved? Even if Naruto-kun makes the final decision. She's got a point, Hinata-chan. Isaribi told her teammate. Are you in favor of the idea? She's too young for this. And for all we know, she may later decide she likes some other boy closer to her own age. Hinata replied. That's why I asked if you could just reserve the last spot in the group for me until I can have kids. Do you have any other volunteers? Hanabi asked. The fact was currently they didn't. While Naruto was liked amongst his peers, fangirls were actually a rarity in Oto. The main reason was that the education system made sure to enforce the fact to its female students that the battlefield was no place to worry about if a boy was noticing them. One part that helped was that all kunoichi in training had to attend a month of classes with no boys present in their final year, where they were taught kunoichi-specific lessons and harsh truths for their careers. Generally without the boys around to encourage them, most fangirls either lost their interest in the shinobi job or learned to have different priorities when on the job. So Hinata drew a blank regarding Hanabi's question. She honestly couldn't think of anyone else to consider over her own sister. As a result, she had little choice but to cave in. Fine Amuto-chan, we'll hold a place for you in the future. For now at least. Hanabi smiled and held out her hand. Okay, if when I can have children and I'm still interested in joining, you and Naruto-kun will let me be a part of your little harem. Deal? With your teammate here as a witness. Hinata shook her sister's hand. Deal. Hanabi struggled to contain her snicker. Ha. Got you Nichan. I say when I can have kids, not several years from now like you probably assumed I meant. I could join tomorrow thanks to age control if I wanted to. You're just lucky I'm not going to rush things so soon. I'd like to at least be chronologically 12 before I make my move. Hey, where did Anko-sensei go? Isaribi asked, regaining the girl's attention. Hinata looked towards where she last saw the purple-haired Jounin, but she was gone. Anko was currently in Orochimaru's office along with Kurenai and Kabuto, standing in front of Orochimaru seated at his desk. The Alto member told her she was needed for a chat with him, so she left her team to handle its own dispute for now. Orochimaru made himself comfortable. My 3 students, as you are aware, we've been waiting for years for the chance to get back at Konoha for the injustices it has committed. Now, we have our chance. How so? Kurenai asked. Thanks to our ally the Kaze Kage, we've gotten an invite to participate in the Chiryunin exams in Konoha this year. We'll never have a better chance for a sneak attack on the village, so this is the perfect opportunity. I've called you 3 here to see if you think your students are qualified to participate. We will still take the test seriously even if we have a separate agenda. A chance for Genin from our village to earn an honest Chiryunin promotion? And a chance to kick some leaf ass? I'm in. Anko replied. Otokage-sama, if I may, personally I'm over my personal grief with that village. However, I do understand that they need some sense beaten into them, so I won't object to your plan. Also, I believe my Genin are ready for the challenge. Kurenai told the Pale Sunin. Kabuto hummed and thought for a moment before answering. My Genin may need a little more experience, but if Anko-chan's team and Kurenai-chan's team is joining, then I know they'll have their backs covered. I'll ask them first, but if they accept then I'm all for it. Perfect. Orochimaru said with a pleased grin. I'm especially glad that you two agreed, Anko-chan and Kurenai-chan. Your Jinhiriki will prove to be very helpful components to our goals. Above all else we must ensure those two make it to the finals. Kabuto-kun, your team will help keep Konoha guessing as to the range of our village's abilities, since no Genin from Konoha have encountered them yet, until the other 2 teams. The 3 Jounin nodded. Understood. I presume that since Naruto and Fya must make it to the final round, that is when we'll make the first strike. Kurenai asked. Yes, that is when Konoha will be most preoccupied, so that will be our window of opportunity. Also, since we're also going to be evaluating our Genin, we don't want to cheat them out of it by denying them the right to be in the finals, right? Orochimaru asked. Also, Suna will be sending their teams too, so we must ensure that their Jinhiriki Gaara gets to the finals too. Konoha's forces will counter-strike strongly even if we strike first and with Suna's help, so having 3 ready Jinhiriki will play a big factor in our favor. So I'm guessing we'll need to disguise ourselves as Sunanin for this mission. Kabuto asked, remembering the times when Oto Ninja had to pretend to be affiliated with other villages to do their jobs. Orochimaru shook his head. No, not for this. That was my plan, but 2 things have changed that. Kazekage-sama specifically mentioned to the Hokage that a new village would enter the exam with his teams, So if Konoha doesn't see anyone associated with a new village, they will get suspicious. Also, some Konoha genin saw 6 of our own genin with the real symbol on their Hitaiates, so using new ones would just confuse them and they may alert Konoha officials of it, which may get our forces unable to progress in the exams and thus ruining our chances for the effective assault we want. Otokage-sama, from what I've seen, the Konoha genin are in no shape to take the genin exams. The odds of them seeing our genin there is slim. Anko interjected. But not non-existent. Their Jounin sensei may enter them for some reason. And even if he doesn't, you can't guarantee they won't see your genin on the streets before the exam or during the break between the second and third rounds. Orochimaru countered. Anko slowly nodded in understanding. So we're going to have to go as Otonin, not Suna. And in case you're worried they'll be detained for anything they did on their mission to Wave, remember that as guests Konoha cannot legally approach them unless they commit a crime on Konoha's turf, per the International Churyunin exam rules. Because the exams took place in 5 different countries and so many from other countries got to attend, a set of rules for every round in every country it took place in had to be made for the alliance between villages to remain stable. One of these rules was that those invited to attend could not be arrested for any crimes committed outside the village's walls, nor could they be taken into custody for any reason unless it could be confirmed with evidence they had done something illegal within the village. The rule became necessary after Kiri tried to kill all those attending one of the exams there that had a Kekkei Genkai, and after Kyumo tried to trap an attending Hyuga member at one of its own. So now, as long as none of the Otonin did anything illegal, Konoha couldn't do anything to them even for harming their precious Uchiha, lest they lose business and risk offending their allies. Otokage-sama, am I correct in presuming that Suna will assist us in this strike against Konoha? Kurane asked. The Sunin nodded. Yes. Kazekage-sama agreed once he heard that a team from Konoha had tried to kill Naruto and had kept Yondaime-sama's wife locked away like some sort of patient zero. Add that to what my old sensei tried to get him to do to Gaara years ago, and he's all in favor of knocking them down a couple pegs. However, IWA will only provide backup support outside the village and will keep any tracker nin from Konoha from being able to find us. I didn't discuss this with Taki because Jiraiya feels they would choose to remain neutral instead. So the plan is our genin teams go to Konoha with us supervising them, having them take the test, where we can't tell them exactly how to guarantee passing but making sure 3 genin in particular stay through it to the end if necessary, and making the big move when almost all of Konoha's eyes are on the arena. Suna will assist us in the initial attack and IWA will assist us in the event we have to leave or Konoha tries to get outside assistance. Am I right? Anko asked. Orochimaru smiled deviously. I couldn't have said it better myself. When Anko returned to her team, she saw that Naruto was back along with Teiwa, and Hanabi looked like she was trying to hang all over him, with Hinata cracking her knuckles for show. Did I miss anything good? Yeah, I'm going to be Naruto-kun's 9th wife. Hanabi happily exclaimed. Anko looked like she just saw a snake with legs, then looked at Naruto. I'm pretty sure that's illegal, Otauto. She's just top candidate for now, Anko-sensei, so don't take it so literally. Hinata told the Jounin. Anko nodded slowly, but with a sinister expression. Wow, Otauto, you actually managed to attract 2 sisters. Most guys would consider that lucky. And speaking of lucky, I've got good news for the 3 of you. How would you 3 feel about competing in the Churyunin exams? The real Churyunin exams? Isaribi asked. Anko nodded. Yes, not that skill evaluation thing we've done for the past decade here. The real deal. Something even I didn't get to do. In fact, you'll actually be the first genin from Oto to participate. Quite an honor if you ask me. Where is it this year? Hinata asked. This is the bad news. It's in Konoha. All 3 genin, and even Teiwa and Hanabi paled at hearing that. But then Naruto spoke up. So now we can show Konoha just what they gave up and hit their pride where it hurts. I'm in. Maybe I can do more than just hurt that jerk. Anko nodded. Oh, you'll definitely get to do more damage than that. I guarantee it. Because, once the exams are over, we're going to show the entire village how strong we are. Teiwa was the only one who immediately understood what Anko was saying. Ah, I'm guessing Operation Burning Leaf is a go. Yes, it's time. We'll never have a better chance for it. What's Operation Burning Leaf? Isaribi asked. It's a vengeance strike against Konoha. Anko answered. As I'm sure you're already aware, this village was founded by people trying to escape the crimes of Konoha and Kiri, and the certain death that would have resulted in staying there in either. In fact, with the exception of Teiwa-san, each one of us right here was victimized by Konoha in some way. Naruto for containing a demon, myself for defending him, Hinata was neglected and beaten by the Hyugas, Hanabi was likely to suffer the same fate, and Isaribi was a test subject for a scientist misusing Jisan's funding. And Konoha's crimes are not limited to just that. It's time for us to get our pound of flesh from them. Are you three in? I am. For what they did to Kao-san's body and Tio-san's last wishes, I want to do something. Naruto answered. Hinata nodded. I'd like to seriously hurt those damn Hyugas so I can truly feel apart from them. Isaribi clapped her hands together once. I'm not sure how useful I'd be, but I'm not going to be the only one who stays behind. Anko grinned at her protégés. Good, now remember to do your best. I'm still expecting you to qualify for Chunin at the same time. Naruto replied with a wide smile and a thumbs up. I'm definitely going to make Chunin. Believe it. Ch39 Humility. Back in Konoha, one team of genin stood at a small bridge over a creek waiting for their sensei to show up. Kiba was keeping himself busy by sitting down and eating some breakfast with Akamaru. Sasuke leaned over the railing and looked down into the passing water while Sakura stood on the other side, wondering if she should approach him or not. For Sasuke, the past few weeks had been a real eye-opener. Even though the council had told him those harsh things, afterwards he still remained convinced that the population of the village would still treat him like some sort of celebrity. Oh, how wrong he was. How very, very wrong. Flashback. Sasuke went grocery shopping and was carrying a basket full of milk, bread, meat, both beef and poultry, and some apples and rice up to the checkout counter. He quickly noticed that the cashier didn't give him the friendly smile he was used to seeing from the middle-aged woman. They took the food and rang up the total price. That'll be 2,270 ryo. Sasuke raised his eyebrows. Wait a minute, the last time I got this stuff I only had to pay 1,000 ryo even. Yeah, that was back when you had status and connections, kid. Sasuke glared. So you're raising the prices for me higher than others just because of some stupid technicality? You can lose your job for that. The cashier didn't look the least bit intimidated. No, I can't, because you're not being discriminated against. You're paying just as much as everyone now, full price. Not the reduced prices I was ordered to give you by the council. Reduced prices? Sasuke asked. Yeah. Every store you've ever gone to has given you a lot of leeway on how much they charge you. Some of them even did it voluntarily, because they hoped when you came into power you'd repay their kindness. But now that we know you never will, we don't have to give you a discount anymore. So you're being charged just as much as everyone else, at least here if not everywhere. And it's completely legal for me to do so. Sasuke growled low in the back of his throat. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the money, having enough but not expecting to use that much here. Fine. I'm sure another store will treat an elite with the respect he deserves. He then left with his provisions. End flashback. To his disappointment and shock, no other store gave him the low prices he was expecting. He had to go home earlier than intended because he didn't have enough money on hand to get all he wanted. When he looked over his new budget and costs, he found he would have to make some cutbacks in some areas until he could earn more. Damn, if only I still had access to the Uchiha account. Why should I be unable to get all I want? I'm an elite, damn it. He was still in denial about what the council told him, but it couldn't last much longer at this rate or he'd go insanely arrogant or arrogantly insane. Another change that occurred, however, both bothered and pleased him. That was the lose of his fangirls, all but Sakura. While he was grateful that now they wouldn't hang all over him like flies, his ego took a hit at the fact that they no longer found him desirable. And it all started the day after the council's ruling against him. Flashback. Sasuke was out training when a large number of his fangirls came up to him. Sasuke-kun, we heard you just got back from an A-ranked mission and faced against a missing nin and saved a whole country. You're so cool. One said with stars in her eyes, hers not the only ones like that. Normally Sasuke would just ignore them, but he was down a bit from the council's cruel words, so he needed a pick-me-up. Thanks. He still wasn't much of a talker though. Before the girls could continue flattering him, a new girl approached with a glare and clenched fists. This girl was Ino, and she looked pissed. You've got a lot of nerve, you smug son of a bitch. Everyone there gasped, even Sasuke. Ino was known to be one of his biggest supporters, so why did she suddenly pull a 180 regarding him? They didn't wonder for long. So we're nothing but stupid brainless bitches, are we? You heartless piece of shit. What are you talking about? A light purple-haired fangirl named Ami asked in disbelief. Ino gave her and the others cold glances, still angry but not necessarily at them. Didn't you hear? Apparently that smug sob lost his rights to his clans and thought that he could use us to get them back. He even said we're a bunch of whiny-ass bimbos who don't have any other use to him. He doesn't give a damn about us and never did. The girls gasped. That can't be true. I didn't want to believe it either, but Ota-san showed me the memory himself. This jerk here only cares about himself and wouldn't look our way unless he can profit from it. Heck, I doubt he even knows a single one of our names. Ino replied. All the girls turned to the Uchiha, hoping he could prove the Yamanaka heiress wrong. The fact that he remained silent only made them more worried. Ami then looked back at Ino. You can't be serious. Ino crossed her arms. I'm more than willing and able to prove it. Come with me and see for yourself. Needless to say, Ami and all the others did, wanting to know for themselves. Luckily Inoichi had some free time, so he did a memory-sharing jutsu that he used on Ino to let them all see what Sasuke said at the last meeting, like he showed his daughter. As a result, all the fangirls wanted nothing less than to inflict some sort of bodily harm on the boy they had been crazy about before. End flashback. So not only did Sasuke lose his social standing in the marketplace, he lost it amongst his own generation. Now even Kiba was a more eligible bachelor than he was. Only two things so far had remained constant: Sakura's affections and the mystery gifts he got on his doorstep at random times from someone he still could not identify. Most likely not Sakura, because she barely had the skill or desire to do something for him without being noticed. He sighed, his thoughts swirling around in his head. The council no longer respects me, the shops no longer recognize my worth, and the girls are throwing a childish tantrum. What's wrong with everyone? Don't they realize I am the one Uchiha here and I need power to kill Itachi? Why does no one see that anymore? What they're doing is only slowing me down when I need to be getting stronger so I can go kill him and those music note nin that took my power from me in the first place. Because of his denial, he didn't want to think that maybe he deserved the treatment he was getting. Or that nobody cared about his personal agenda now. Meanwhile, Sakura watched him from behind, wondering what to do about the boy she obsessed over. She saw how bothered he was at everything he took for granted suddenly disappearing from his grasp. She didn't know what she could offer him besides her consolation, but she wasn't sure if she even could now. Not after what she had been told. Flashback. Sakura, we need to talk. Natsume told the young girl once she got home after the council meeting. Natsume Harino was actually Sakura's aunt on her father's side and a council member for the civilians, who worked as a librarian in her non-council time. Both of Sakura's parents were clanless shinobi that died in battle against the Kyuubi years ago, which meant Natsume became her legal guardian at a very young age. Unlike her brother and sister-in-law, Natsume did not have the courage or desire to be a ninja and never even attended the ninja academy. However, she did notice that shinobi clans had the best lifestyles and bank accounts in the village and always wanted to join in on their luxury despite her low status and non-ninja lifestyle. So Natsume at a young age tried the one way she saw available to her, marry into a clan and use their benefits as her own. Problem is that's easier said than done, and ninja aren't that easy to fool. She had tried to form a subtle parasite relationship with Hayashi Hyuga, Fugaku Uchiha, Inoichi Yamanaka, and even Minato Namikaze, all without success. What about Obazan? Sakura asked. It's about the young Uchiha. Her aunt started. It appears he now has no access to his clan fortune or status in this village. So now there's no point in you pursuing him anymore. Sakura's eyes widened. What do you mean? I love Sasuke-kun. Why would I stop pursuing him? Because you have nothing to gain from him anymore. He'll have to work for wealth now and can't give you any children in the future. You'd be better off trying to catch the interest of someone else now, like your other teammate. Sakura looked disgusted. Kiba baka? No way. I love Sasuke-kun and I'm not ditching him because of some little problem just like that. It would be smarter if you did. After all, there are other fish in the sea. Sakura looked confused. But all these years you've told me Sasuke-kun is the only guy in the country worth my attention and affection. Why the sudden change? It makes no sense, Obazan. Because beforehand if you had gotten his you and I would have a better nest egg to rely on and not worry about our budget and have more authority in this village. But with his new handicap you won't get anything of the sort from him. So I'm telling you to give up on him since he's just an empty wallet now and go for some boy with better resources now so he can take care of us. Natsumi said rather plainly. Sakura was having a hard time processing this. But you always said dash. I know what I said. Listen to what I'm saying now. There's no point in pursuing the Uchiha now, so find someone else with money and status. Sakura looked ready to faint. But I love Sasuke-kun. I won't leave him for someone richer. You better. How else are we going to have a better life? I know I can have a good life with Sasuke-kun when we get married. Maybe it won't be as luxurious as before, but it will be worth it as long as I'm with him. Sakura told her aunt. Natsumi scoffed. Bullshit. A man who can't provide for and spoil a woman isn't a man of any worth, so just ditch him and look for one that can. That's that. End flashback. As a result, Sakura didn't know what to do. She still cared for Sasuke, but now her aunt, the same one who encouraged her to take an interest in him in the first place, told her to give up and find someone she deemed more profitable. She didn't want to stop trying to earn his affections, but at the same time she didn't want her aunt upset at her. Those two and their ideas were pretty much the foundation of her entire thought process, and to feel split between the two was giving her a headache. Kiba meanwhile was ignoring the whole situation. His only thoughts on the matter were simple and selfish. Heh, now that Mr. High and Mighty is a nobody, now some of the girls will look my way. It will be nice to have some girls treat me as top dog rather than put me down like Nissan does and Okasan too sometimes. Kakashi came up to them and waved. Hey team. You're late again. Sakura said irritably, but strangely much quieter than normal. I know, but it was because I got something for you three. The Cycloptic Jounin said as he pulled out 3 papers. I got you 3 nominations to take place in the upcoming Chiryunin exams. If you feel ready for it then sign these and I'll turn them in. The Chiryunin exams? Hell yeah. The perfect chance to show off my skills to everyone. Kiba said excitedly as he eagerly took one of the forms being offered. You might want to work on your subtlety, Kiba. Kakashi told him. After all, good ninja don't go showing off. But girls like tough guys. The Inuzuka countered confidently, signing the paper without even looking it over fully. Kakashi sighed, then faced his other students. What about you two? The whole team has to agree or no one participates. Sasuke gave his teacher a curious yet annoyed look. Is there a chance those assholes we saw in Wave will be here for it? Kakashi shrugged. I guess it's possible, but you'll only be legally allowed to do anything about them if you participate in the exams. Otherwise you'd be arrested for a long time as an international threat to others. Can you guarantee they'll be there? Sasuke asked. No, I can't. You'll just have to see for yourself. Sasuke closed his eyes and thought it over. I've got to take this chance. And even if they don't show up, I can prove to all the idiots here that even without my Sharingan I'm still a superior ninja. He opened his eyes and held out his hand. I'll accept. Sakura predictably joined in on his actions. Me too. This way Obazan can't complain about me being close to him, and when he becomes Chiryunin maybe she'll see how great he is for me. Kakashi handed them all their entry forms. Remember guys, this won't be. Don't go thinking this is like the tests you took back in the academy. Your life will be on the line here and you'll face people who will have no reason to go easy on you whatsoever. The looks in Sasuke's and Kiba's eyes said they were confident in their skills to win. Maybe a bit too confident. While Sakura's eyes showed less confidence and more of hope for the Uchiha beside her. I sure hope you know what you're getting into, Kakashi thought. But then again, I am using this as an eye-opener for you three. Maybe afterwards you'll think with your brains rather than your egos or fantasies. Ch40 entry. Sakura and Kiba were walking down the street a week later wondering about the Chunin exams that would start tomorrow. Kiba looked forward to the parts where he could show off his skills to everyone, hoping it would attract the girls and humble the other boys. Sakura however was starting to worry about how well she'd do, considering she was the weakest member of her team. At first, she thought Sasuke would be able to keep her safe, but how could she seriously expect to get through the test if she had to be dependent on someone else to cover for her? That surely wasn't what the higher UPS were looking for in a Chunin. This test is going to be a piece of cake, ain't it, Sakura? Kiba asked to start some sort of conversation between the two as they looked for Kakashi and Sasuke for additional last-minute training. I wouldn't say that, Kiba. Remember, it's not going to be like the kind we used to take, she said. Yeah, this time we'll do more fighting than paperwork, the Inuzuka replied, making Sakura sigh silently in frustration. Hey, let go of me. A young boy's voice cried out from the street right of them, drawing both of their attentions. They saw a young man they never saw before wearing something that made him look like a black cat holding a brown-haired boy by his collar and the long green scarf around it. The older boy wore decorative war paint on his face and a wrapped-up bundle on his back about as big as he was. From this distance they could see a metal plate on his head cover, but they couldn't see the symbol etched on it. There was also a boy with glasses and an orange-haired girl the same age as the other boy telling the other guy to let their friend go. You should have watched where you were going, runt, the black-clad boy told the kid. Hey! Let that kid go right now, you creep! Sakura screamed as she stormed up to the newcomer. When she got close enough she saw the Suna emblem on his Hitai. A blonde woman with 4 short tufts of hair tied in the back came into sight as if by shushin behind the black-clad shinobi. She wore a light purple battle dress that covered everything between her shoulders and thighs with a red sash as a belt. She also wore fishnet mesh across her shoulders and for some reason on her right calf and left thigh. She wore a scarf like Hitai around her neck with the Suna symbol as well and carried a long metal object on her back the two Konoha genin couldn't identify. Kankuro, stop that. Don't draw attention to yourself, she told him sternly. But Temari, I'm just teaching this kid a lesson, he argued. Just don't, okay? Save your energy for tomorrow. Hey! Did you hear me? Sakura screamed again, ready to hit if the kid wasn't still being held captive. Of course we did. They probably heard you and Kiri, Kankuro told her. What are a bunch of Sunanin doing here? Kiba asked as he approached. Temari hit Kankuro's hands, making him drop the young boy. You better run off before he decided to finish what he started, kid. The young boy nodded and ran off with his 2 friends. Temari then looked at the 2 Konoha nin. Why do you think we're here? We came for the Chunin exams. But those start tomorrow. Why are you here today? Kiba asked. Why would we wait for the last minute? Kankuro asked back. Yeah, other teams are on their way right now too and they should all get here by nightfall. We're just lucky enough to get here first. Temari added. Other teams, huh? Sakura thought curiously. Did either of you happen to see anybody wearing Hitaites with a music note on them? Temari and Kankuro exchanged looks, careful to make it look like they were trying to remember something. No, nothing like that comes to mind. Why? Because those guys are horrible thugs that deserve the death penalty 10 times. The Pinkette said venomously. The Sunanin's eyes widened in surprise. What did they do? Temari asked as if offended by the claim. They hurt someone from our village. Sakura answered hostilely, not wanting to admit it was Sasuke to someone they may have to fight later and could use his weakness to their advantage. Temari and Kankuro arched an eyebrow each. Unless it's your cage, how does that justify the death penalty? Kankuro asked. Just ignore her. Kiba butted in. As far as she's concerned, this guy is bigger than all the cages in the history of the continent put together. Sakura gave him a dirty look for the implied put-down, but he ignored it. But he's just overrated. Me on the other hand, now I'm a guy with real strength. Kankuro looked him right in the eye. Care to prove it, hotshot? He then reached for one of the straps holding his concealed puppet on his back. Kankuro, what are you thinking? You can't use the Karasu here. Temari warned. I'll just be a moment. Think of it as practice for later, Nasan. He said. Kankuro. A creepy voice called out, attracting everyone's attention to the branch of a nearby tree. There stood another Sunanin with short red hair, dark brown clothes, and a large gourd strapped onto his back. It looked like it should have thrown his balance off, but he looked like it didn't inconvenience him in any way. In this FIC he doesn't have AI on his forehead as he wasn't traumatized by the Yoshimaru incident thanks to Tsunade and Naruto. And his seal was improved so he's not homicidal and insomniac because of the Ichibai. Don't reveal your trump card right away. You will need it for later. The black-clad shinobi relented. Fine, Gaara. If you say so. Who the heck are you? Kiba asked. Weird, he smells like sand and raccoon, and looks like someone who's not afraid to get blood on his hands. None of your business. Was the cold reply. Hey Gaara, did you and Baki-sensei find a hotel? Temari asked. The raccoon-eyed Sunanin nodded, then quickly raised his right hand to catch a pebble that had been thrown at him from behind. He turned his head to see Sasuke standing behind him condescendingly in the tree. Nice try, but you're far from my level. Sasuke scoffed. Do you know who I am? No, and I do not care. Gaara plainly replied. I am Sasuke Uchiha, the single best genin in all of Land of Fire, and you will respect me. Gaara looked away. I respect only a select few, and you do not deserve to be one of them. He then jumped out of the tree. Nisan, Naizen, let's go. The others will be here soon. The trio of Sunanin started walking off. Sasuke, fuming at being ignored, jumped down as well. Tell me your name. Gaara turned to look at him again. I am Gaara Subaku. Then I hope to face against you shortly, Gaara. Sasuke declared. Likewise. My ally needs some blood. Sakura paled then glowered. You dare threaten to kill Sasuke-kun? You heartless bastard. I'll get you kicked out of town for dash. Shut up or I'll kill you. He said dangerously low with a hardened look at the kunoichi, making the air actually feel cold around her. She stopped her rant, much to everyone's relief. That was your one warning. You better be careful, girl. My brother doesn't make idle threats. Temari told her fellow kunoichi. With that, the three disappeared in a sand shushin. Sasuke put his hands in his pockets. Something about that guy is dangerous and powerful. I must know what it is and how to take it for myself. Sasuke-kun, you were so cool facing those creeps like that. Sakura said. As always, he ignored her and walked away. She followed, and Kiba did too, simply because he thought he might find his sensei too and get some training like he intended to before this happened. Okay team, here's where things get tough. You ready? Anko asked as all three Oto teams approached the main gates of Konoha. Not really, but if we were afraid of risks we wouldn't be ninja in the first place, would we? Hinata asked. Think we can last long enough to make it to the finals before anyone notices us? Naruto asked. Not sure. But if Konoha tries anything underhanded, like framing us just so they have an excuse to put us behind bars, then Kazekage-sama can back us up. I bet even Tsuchikage-sama would too if they went that far. Kabuto added. Yeah. Konoha won't want to risk offending their ally Suna or their enemy Iwa. Kurane added with a nod. But still, don't add fuel to the fire. All of the genin nodded. In no time they got up to the gate. Izumo and Kotetsu were standing guard as was their routine. Welcome to Konoha. Are you here for the Churyunin exams? Kabuto nodded. Yes, we're here on behalf of Kazekage-sama, who was nice enough to nominate our meager village for this great honor. Smooth Kabuto-kun. Anko and Kurenai thought. Izumo saw the symbol on their Hitaites. I've never seen that one before. Where do you hail from? A rather small and new village called Otagakur. This is our first chance to be noticed by the world. Kurenai answered humbly. And Kazekage-sama invited you to participate? Kodastu asked. Anko nodded. Yes. He was rather insistent that we get a chance to see how tough we really are. And while we may not be as strong as Konoha, I feel we may do decently. Izumo handed them a clipboard with the standard legal entry form on it for all guests into hidden villages. Just sign here and find yourself somewhere to lodge tonight. Participating genin are required to be at the Konoha Academy room 301 at 8 AM sharp. You got that, team? Anko asked as she took the clipboard. They all nodded, and soon each Otonin signed in. They gladly noticed that their Suna friends were already here as planned. Anko and Naruto had to use their fake surname Urishi and Kurenai had to use a fake one as well, Hayu, in case anyone recognized her family name from years before. Kabuto and the others were a safer bet, so they used their regular names. Of course Hinata used the name Hibiki as she never used the name Hyuga and never intended to. As part of their cover, some of them were disguised physically too. Naruto had makeup to cover his whisker marks and dyed his hair brown, making the connection to his father that much harder to see. He wasn't wearing an orange and black jumpsuit right now, but he did bring it along for later on. Right now he wore a forest green jacket over a black shirt and navy blue pants. Hinata wore blue contacts that made it look like she had a normal set of blue eyes and a red version of her normal jacket. Kurenai also wore a set of brown contacts to cover her red eyes, in case anyone noticed them. But overall, the Jounin would be the hardest to identify by appearance alone, so they didn't change themselves that much. Kabuto and his genin didn't change their appearance at all, and Anko wore her hair down in a low ponytail. The others from Oto looked their normal selves. Okawai, you're all set. Enjoy our village and try to stay out of trouble. Izumo told them with a friendly tone and smile. Don't worry, we intend to. We wouldn't want to risk upsetting the strongest of all the villages after all. Kurenai replied. Ugh, I suddenly feel so dirty. They then left the guards before the conversation had to continue any further. That night all the Chiryunin hopefuls were now in Konoha and in their hotel rooms or campsites in the forests. The three Oto teams quickly hooked up with Baki's team before anyone else from Konoha saw them. Right now all four teams were in the hotel room the Sunanin checked out for now. Any trouble yet? Baki asked the others. So far now. But we did just start out, so we shouldn't drop our guard. Kurenai answered. What are you guys going to do while we're being tested? Sasami asked. Hard to say. We can't just go around the village or we'll look suspicious as if we're planning something. Anko stated. Maybe we'll go find a nice dango bar to hang out in. Kabuto gave her an, are you serious, look. You are aware that the second round can take several days most times, right? Anko just shrugged. Several days in a dango shop? You make that sound like a bad thing, Kabuto-kun. He snorted in resignation. Yeah, I forgot who I was talking to for a moment. In any case, don't worry about us. Worry about yourself and your upcoming opponents. Kurenai told all the genin. She then looked at Baki. I hope you don't mind, but since we're likely to get in hot water with Konoha, would it be okay for us to crash here with you four? The veiled Suna Jounin nodded. Yes, that would be wise. If Konoha is likely to do as you suspect, then having us as witnesses will ruin the credibility of their claims. So for the night at least one person from my team, myself included, will have to stand guard with someone from your teams. That way, no matter what and when, there will be at least one Suna witness to it. The Oto Jounin nodded. If someone is close to the Yondaime Kazekage as this team challenged any anti-Oto reports Konoha might make, it would look bad for Konoha to ignore or defame them, lest they incur the wrath of the Kazekage. In that case, let's get some sleep. Big day tomorrow after all, you nine. Anko told them. I'll take first watch, if Naruto-kun keeps me company. Tamari said with a warm look at the disguised blonde. He started to say, unsure how to finish. That's okay with me. Hinata said. You two haven't had the chance to talk in person for months. Go right ahead. Anko eyed the Byakugan user curiously. Just who is really in charge of their harem, her or Otauto? With little fuss, everyone in the room save 2 ninja soon were asleep and waiting for tomorrow, the first day of the Chiryunin exams. Check the description for the links to the author.